Hey, it's Paris. You know I love sparkly things, right? Like stars. Duh. And thanks to Hilton and AutoCamp, I just slept under them. Picture me, serving looks by the fire outside my luxurious Airstream, making s'mores with the kids, while a national park is our backdrop. The great outdoors meets Hilton hospitality. That's hot. Explore all the new ways to stay at Hilton.com. Hilton for the stay.
Welcome back to another edition of the Disney Dish Podcast with Jim Hill. It's me, Len Testa, and this is our show for the week of Schmurz Day, September 8th, 2025. On the show today, news, listener questions. In surveys, Disney asks, what benefits do you really need if you're staying on site? While Universal asks the existential question, what is a popcorn bucket anyway? I can smell the Peabody Award from here, Jim, and it's covered in butter. Then in our main segment, Jim continues the story of how Disney California Adventure prepared for its Cars Land redo in 2012. Let's get started by bringing in the man who read that only 1 in 10 people is good at math and concluded he must be in the other half. It's Mr. Jim Hill. Jim, how's it going?
Math. Okay. I think I previously mentioned on this podcast that back when I was attending Maynard High School, I was so terrible at math. I had to take Algebra 2 twice, so technically I have taken Algebra 4.
I think part of the problem, you know, now that we're of a certain age, I think part of the problem that you and I both had with math is that it's really difficult to understand Roman numerals when they're in quantities like that. Like, you know, we went to school before Arabic numerals were invented.
There we go. There we go. And by the way, this is why I am so grateful to work with this. Here's a guy who actually knows how to make math. And in today's algorithm-driven world, it especially helps when, let's be honest here, your only real talent is telling long, pointless stories. To surround yourself with people who are so much smarter than you are. I mean, this is why, and I mean this sincerely, I'm so lucky to work with Len and the Herseys and to have Nancy in my life. By the way, we celebrated our 28th anniversary this week.
Mazel tov, you crazy kids. What'd you guys do?
Well, because it was Labor Day, it took us 3 tries to find a restaurant that was open, and then celebrated being together that long with some pretty indifferent pasta. But, you know, I mean...
You know what? The point is you tried. The point is it's quantity time, not quality time that's important.
There we go. And we both dressed up like grown-ups. It was, you know, I mean, it cleaned up nice. But anyway, back to it. Look, when I see X plus Y equals Z, I am in over my head, Len. My tiny lizard brain is like, those are letters, not numbers. How is this supposed to work again? Yeah. And can we please get back to Beowulf? You know, I'm just saying.
Exactly. Fantastic. All right, Jim, while we're acknowledging things, let's do a shout out to our subscribers. Thanks to everyone who subscribes to the show over at patreon.com/JimHillMedia, including Megan Baumgartner, Ben Ige, Mel Davis, Scott Gillespie, William Stewart, and Baritone Jesse. Jim, these are the Disney custodial staff combing through the boneyard, looking for long-buried items left in the sand now that the attraction is closed. So far, they've found 12 Pal Mickeys, a year's supply of Joe Rohde earrings, and a handwritten document titled Important, How to Repair the Yeti Without Tearing Down the Whole Building. True story.
Honestly, I thought the gold was the year's supply of Joe Rohde.
And it got better. Exactly.
It got better. All right. That's good stuff. That's good stuff.
On to the news. Folks, the Disney Dish News is sponsored by UnlockedMagic.com from our friends at DVCRentalStore.com. Jim, you know that UnlockedMagic.com has regular Disney theme park tickets and special event tickets for things like Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party at prices that are cheaper than Disney's. And as we noted, Jim, every Halloween party in August sold out. The ones so far this in September have sold out as well. So if you're planning to head to Orlando anytime soon, really anytime, head to unlockedmagic.com right now to get your tickets. All right, on to the news. Jim, over in Walt Disney World, we finally got closing dates for Dinosaur and Restaurantosaurus, and that is February 2nd, 2026. So that's our last date for Dinosaur and for Restaurantosaurus. I also note that Disney moved up the annual refurb for Kali River Rapids, which is normally like in January, February, you know, the colder months of the year.
Yeah.
But it's now October 6th to sometime in December. And Jim, I'm thinking here that this is a capacity play, right?
Oh, it has to be. I mean, if you think about just taking Dinosaur out of the equation, Even with, again, remember, kind of interesting, on last week's show, we were just talking about the news about Zootopia Zoo Better Together, and how, we'd initially heard that wasn't going to open till January, and now that's opening. And middle of November. I mean, they're addressing this issue. I mean, face it, Animal Kingdom historically has a capacity problem. So getting Cali, making sure that Cali is up and running when Dinosaur goes down, that's a smart play. That said, just warning folks in advance who climb aboard this thing in February, even with the water effects dialed down.
Yeah, still going to be cold. Yeah, exactly.
There we go.
Yeah, that's going to be super interesting to see what sort of capacity, what sort of operational capacity, not theoretical, but operational, like the actual use, what they get in January and February. Although I remember, like, last February, I think was pretty mild. Like, that could be okay. And by the time you get to March, it's warm enough, I think. We'll see.
Well, there we go. Thank you, climate change. Finally working in our
favor. Exactly.
There we go.
Other things announced at D23, the Destination D23, Carousel of Progress is getting an update. So Disney said that we're going to get our very own Walt Disney animatronic to be installed in a new pre-show scene. That's interesting, right?
It is. I've been talking with some folks related to the company about this, and you got to remember, it wasn't all that long ago where there was a serious conversation about Tomorrowland,
right,
and in regards to Carousel of Progress sitting there. It's not necessarily desired capacity. It occupies a big chunk of very valuable real estate in Tomorrowland that could perhaps use another ride.
Yeah.
But in today's Magic Kingdom, with all of the work that's going on Rivers of America and, everything that's going on that side of the park, it was just not in the cards, especially after Tron Lightcycle Run was added to this side of the park,
right,
to put another attraction in here. So,
I see what you're saying here. Yeah. Okay, so with all of the focus, like when Big Thunder reopens and eventually when we get Cars Land, we're going to need as much stuff as possible on the other side of the park to pull, even if it's 100 guests an hour, it's 100 guests an hour over to that side of the park. I see this now. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
And to be honest, what this is a patch on a bad tire. I mean, just the notion is, if you put the Walt animatronic figure, which, by the way, you've already designed and built for Walt Disney, a Magical Life out in California. If you put him in the opening scene in a brief introductory thing using real Walt audio, for 10 years, that will boost attendance for this ride. And then on the other side of Cars Land and Villains Land, when it's finally time to return to Tomorrowland, it's like, okay, let's make the hard choice now. Beyond that, Len, everything I've been told about the other update is like at least going into the final scene and not necessarily changing the dialogue, but at least updating the physical setting. So like it's a flat screen television instead of a giant tube.
Yeah, I mean, they'll probably upgrade the virtual reality stuff. I think the mom will probably get a laptop that wasn't made by Compaq HP in 1995. Stuff like that.
There we go.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they have enough money or capacity right now to update like the fourth scene. And Jim, no timeline was given for the update. But let me ask you two other things that came out of this. Number one, did you happen to see the concept art for the birthday cake overlay for Carousel of Progress?
Yeah. And
okay. And was your reaction like mine in that I said, every day we stray further from God's light?
What Mr. Testa is actually saying here is we are of a certain age and we actually remember the castle cake. And with therapy, the twitching stopped, didn't it, Lynn?
I mean, you thought, you remember when that meme went out a few years ago and it was, what color is this dress? And some people thought it was gold.
Yep.
And some people thought it was blue. If Disney redid Cinderella Castle as a cake again, that would literally break the internet.
Oh, absolutely. And the irony, the supreme irony here is, I don't know if you heard, look, Tomorrowland's actually getting a visual update starting next month when Tron Ares arrives in theaters, and they actually change the nighttime light profile of Tron Lightcycle Run to reflect the red color palette of that movie. So it's like, look, they're already doing it. You don't have to do the cake on top of the Carousel of Progress. We're good, okay?
Exactly. You know what? Lighting effects would be fun here.
There we go.
And we did have the Tron Lightcycle Run thing as a news item coming up in a second. But before we get to that, I want to ask you this question, and it's Carousel of Progress related, and it is news related as well. So our friend Bethany Bemis, curator at the Smithsonian, asked me this question the other day. Why is Abe Lincoln considered the first animatronic when the Carousel of Progress animatronics were done first?
Okay.
I have two theories. Do you want to hear them both?
Yes, please.
The first one is that the Lincoln animatronic has much more range of motion. It stands up, it sits down, things like that. Whereas the Carousel of Progress animatronics don't really do that. Although the animatronics for Carousel of Progress were conceived as early as 1957. My second idea is that it's a better story if it's Abe.
I think you are right in both cases. Just the fact that, and in fact, that's always been part of the Lincoln story. The effect of when Robert Moses came to Imagineering and they had the Lincoln figure stand up and put its hand out to shake Moses' hand, that it was like, oh, I must have this for the fair. I mean, that, I think you nailed it. It's because that figure was so much more ambitious. That's why, again, this is Disney. It's a company of storytellers. If we're being honest here, the first AA figure never made it into the park. The Confucius thing?
Right.
And then they were like, ooh, let's not do humans. Let's do birds. And we got the tiki room.
Right. All right, fair. All right, I think that's a good compromise.
Okay.
All right. We mentioned the Tron Lightcycle Run temporary overlay. So, Jim, as you mentioned, we're going from our current blue and orange nighttime colors to dark red and orange with new red lights on the ride track plus new tunnel effects and also a soundtrack by Nine Inch Nails.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
That's going to be super fun.
And just a word of warning, they've been doing test screenings of Tron Ares around the country, and Disney is very, very happy. They think,
oh, good.
It only took some, they started doing this franchise back in 1982, but they finally met a good one.
A lot of people hit their peak in middle age or find their stride. It's fine.
There we go.
I'm good with that.
There we go.
Last little bit of news from Destination D23. Cinderella Castle is returning to its original color scheme. So goodbye, rose gold. I have to say I'm happier with the original color scheme. I think that's the best one.
Okay. I mean, again, I'm always amused by this. It's like, oh, you're going to repaint the fiberglass. Good. Okay.
Sure. That'll work out well in Florida. Absolutely.
Okay. There we go.
And Jim, we have a little bit of news from Disneyland Paris, courtesy of our friend Dr. Peter Luce. And remember, Jim, that World of Frozen is opening up sometime in 2026 in Disneyland Paris. And Peter was kind enough to send us in the pricing calendar for 1 day of tickets in March 2026. Jim, I posted that screen cap in the show notes. And is there one day in March, Jim, that stands out to you in those show notes that might be the day on which World of Frozen opens in Disneyland Paris?
Wow. Okay. Yes. That's an interesting price jump, Len. Do you want to talk about that?
All right. So for our listeners who are driving, the price of a one-day ticket in March ranges between 106 to 130 euros. Depending on the date for the first half of the month. And then the second half of the month, starting around the week of the 16th, it goes to 139 to 143. And then on March 28th, it goes from like the week before on like, let's say Friday the 21st to get into the park is 141 pounds. Then next Friday, it's 215.
Yeah.
And that date is highlighted in blue. I'm thinking that's the day this thing opens to the public.
There we go. Quick note here. Want to thank Disney Dish listener Carl M., who was just over at Disneyland Paris. And I don't know if we talked about these previously, Len, but imagine Eddie Sato, who was in charge of Main Street USA for Disneyland Paris. He had created, I think we talked about this in the show, there was a Roaring Twenties version that they were supposed to build. And at the last minute, Michelangelo is like, no, we'll go back to the turn of the century. And what's interesting is years after the fact, Eddie has created a booklet and a set of lithos that literally are called The Land That Never Was, Disney's Roaring Twenties. And Carl was nice enough to not only get me a set of these, but to ship them all the way to the woods of New Hampshire. And I'm just going to share one detail, because the beauty part of this land is we've always talked about what was supposed to be inside of Walt's a speakeasy.
Right.
Okay, and thanks now to Carl and Eddie Sato's group of lithos, we now have not only the name of that speakeasy, but we've got the story. Len, it was a funeral home on Main Street. and the name of the funeral home was Shaker and Tipple.
It's a funeral home / bar?
It's like, well, that's the thing. You step up to the funeral home, and evidently the key phrase is you say to the funeral director, "We're with the family," and then they open the door to the
genius
to the speakeasy, where again you're surrounded by coffins filled with bottles. In fact, that's the thing, that they would make this very elaborate show of delivering a coffin to the funeral home, and accidentally it would open and all these bottles would spill out on the street, and they'd put them back in and then take it into the club. But
that's fantastic! Oh my God, that's great.
But I love that. Shaker and Tipple funeral home.
Beautiful.
And it just so thanks to Carl for chasing us down, and thanks for Eddie for sharing that story after all these years.
That's fantastic. We should do a show on this.
I would love to. In fact, we'll reach out to Eddie and see if he wants to come on.
Oh my God, that'd be fantastic. Let's do that.
Okay.
All right, Jim, on to surveys. From Jeff Clune, we have another Disney survey indicating upcoming changes to Genie and My Disney Experience. And the questions are this. It starts with, would love to hear about your experience with Notification Center. How helpful has Notification Center been in keeping you on top of what's important? Did the app communications and notifications keep you informed? How easy or difficult is it to use the Notification Center? And what, if anything, was difficult for you when you were using the Notification Center? So I think one of the big things that Disney's trying to do within Genie is to keep you in there. And by keeping you in there, it needs to alert you to things that are going on, especially things that you've planned outside of that particular part of the app and maybe in other parts of My Disney Experience. So here I think the Notification Center within your day planner thing is the thing that they're working on here.
Okay. I mean, it would make the Disney, especially the Disney World Vacation experience, so much easier if these various pieces would actually talk to one another and you could get some real-time updates.
Right. I agree. I think that's one thing. If you have to be on your phone, at least don't make me switch between different parts of the app. I think that's like step one. There we go. Mm-hmm.
All
right. Our friend Tara Lenharth sent in a Disney survey that asks about on-site hotel benefits. And the question is this. Had any of the following Disney Resort Collection guest benefits not been available during your recent stay, would you still have decided to stay at a Disney resort? And you have two options, yes or no.
Okay.
And it's things like early dining reservation access, water park admission including with stay on check-in day, and then resort transportation. And Jim, I mentioned this because we noted a couple of weeks ago that Disneyland announced it's phasing out early entry benefits for on-site resort guests in 2026.
Yeah.
And now we're getting this survey question. And it makes my palms sweat, Jim.
Yeah. I mean, I don't get pulling, especially in Florida, that off the table.
Right.
Unless, again, somebody's decided that we take it off for a while and then introduce it as another revenue stream.
Yeah, they could charge for it. Yeah. There are a couple of other things that they were listed with the same yes-no option, and they were annual pass holder discounts, annual passes themselves, Epcot's Food and Wine Festival, and then a set of attractions. One was core Hollywood Studios attractions, but they listed the core attractions as Tower of Terror, Rock and Roller Coaster, and Toy Story Mania. Not, anything at Galaxy's Edge or Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. And then also Navi River Journey and Tron Lightcycle Run.
Wow.
I'm guessing Navi's some sort of baseline.
Okay.
Huh.
Those are interesting choices. Wow.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned that Disney's sending out surveys though about asking about what resort benefits aren't absolutely necessary for people to book. Because here's the thing, like if they say, well, only 20% of resort guests use early dining reservation access, you're still talking about millions of people a year. So a small fraction of a big number is still a big number.
It is,
and that's concerning to me.
Okay, well, and you and I repeatedly mention on this show, Disney doesn't send out a survey unless they're looking for a specific result. So these questions concern me. I mean, the notion of core Hollywood studio attractions.
Right. Well, my other one is resort transportation. Like, is that some sort of baseline question again? Because, like, how would they get rid of free resort transportation? Would you have like a Metro Pass or something, and you have to tap when you get on the monorail? Like, how would that even work?
Elon Musk speed tunnels, perhaps, because those will work great in the low Florida water table, Len.
I mean, how would they get rid of free resort transportation? What would the options be there? Like, how would you? I'm asking the question, and literally, Jim, there's the back half of my brain is screaming, "Don't ask this," because someone in Disney's going to try and find the answer. But how would they charge for resort transportation? All right, we'll think about that. Let's move on to the next survey.
Okay.
Our friend Matthew Verbka sends in a Universal Orlando survey about popcorn buckets, and I know your first reaction, Jim, would be, how many questions can you ask about popcorn buckets? And let me just say, the people at Universal Orlando are an inquisitive bunch, because there's a lot of questions with a lot of options here, but let's go through it. Which of the following best describes what you think a Universal souvenir popcorn bucket is? It's primarily a souvenir or collectible item. It's primarily a food container. It's both a souvenir and collectible item and a food container. And it's something else. Please specify. Jim, I love this because philosophers around the world are grateful that Universal Orlando is finally getting to the bottom of this. I mean, Aristotle would probably say that the bucket is both form and function. The functional part is that it holds popcorn, obviously, which feeds us, but it's also an object of telos. It's an end in and of itself because it commemorates the trip and the experience. Now, Plato would probably say that a popcorn bucket is a symbol of us yearning for permanence in the fleeting experience of a theme park, no?
I'm always more of a student of Schrödinger. The effect of Schrödinger's popcorn bucket. Is there, in fact, popcorn inside of the popcorn bucket? Because if there is, then it ruins the value as a collectible. So,
yes, quantum mechanics tells us that we don't know the true nature of the popcorn bucket until we actually observe it. So
there we go. There we go.
I'm going to point out that Nietzsche would say something like the popcorn bucket is an acknowledgement of life's absurdity. And that Jean-Paul Sartre would say that the popcorn bucket has no inherent meaning. We give it meaning by what we do with it. There we go. All right.
And again, if it's a collectible, and we've got a shelf of them at home.
Exactly.
Let's also talk about what this is. I mean, Universal has observed the millions, tens of billions of dollars that Disney makes annually off of popcorn buckets. And in fact, just think about, for example, heading into this year's Mickey's Not So Scary, and how the internet lost its mind over the Stitch Mummy popcorn bucket. Right. And you just look at a Universal like, okay, if we're stepping into that space, are we actually selling these things at our popcorn stands, or are we, in fact, these are collectibles and we need to create shelf space inside of our retail operations for these? And there might be a serious question underlying this somewhat ridiculous survey.
No, it's funny you mentioned that, because the next question in the survey was, which of the following factors influenced your decision to purchase a souvenir popcorn bucket? And one of them was, I was influenced by social media and or friends.
There we go.
So the other ones were, it was convenient to carry popcorn around the parks. Souvenir popcorn buckets are on trend right now. So again, another social media thing right there. I'm a fan of the feature branded character. It was a better value versus purchasing multiple bags of popcorn. I collect souvenirs featuring this particular brand. I wanted to show my love for the brand. I wanted to try different flavors of popcorn, or it was a limited edition or seasonal offering. So yeah, I mean, three of your points, Jim, are in this very question right there.
Yeah. Okay, so I would anticipate folks stepping forward here, watching a Universal step decidedly into this space. It'll just be interesting to see where they're actually selling the popcorn buckets.
I'd love to see it too. The last question was, which characters or brands would you be interested in purchasing a souvenir popcorn bucket for? And Jim, it went on for pages. Like it was everything from like a Hello Kitty, which it kind of is an obvious thing, right? I would buy the heck out of that. But it's things like Parks and Recreation. What would a Parks and Rec popcorn bucket look like?
You're eating out of Chris Pratt's head?
Yeah,
I don't get it.
Exactly. Yeah. There's one for The Office. And then the last question was, which of the following popcorn flavors or styles would you be interested in trying at Universal? Select all that apply, and I'll just go through them here. Flaming Hot, Cinnamon Swirl, Funfetti, Caramel, Chocolate Cheese, Butter, Dill Pickle, Ranch, Cheesy Jalapeno, Plain, Glitter, Banana, Cookies and Cream, Pumpkin, and Mystery Flavor. What flavor is glitter?
I don't know if we even want to start to go down this line, because again, I'm a man of a certain age with a digestive tract, and frankly, I don't need surprises.
No.
Oh wow, glitter flavor.
Glitter. Did you know that the single largest consumer of glitter in the United States is the boat industry?
All right. Please tell me that's for safety flares.
No. It's for the sides of the boat. Yeah, they apparently don't like to publicize that. For I guess it somehow compromises the manliness of buying a boat. But whatever. Okay. Anyway. All right. Last survey question is from Chris Holland, who says sent in a survey, and it's a Disney survey, and it's about ride reliability. And it says this, and we've seen this question before, but it's which of the following best describes your experience riding Rise of the Resistance on the date that Chris visited? I rode it successfully without any issues. I rode it successfully, but some show elements did not appear to be working. I rode it successfully, but the ride was interrupted. And I rode it successfully, but the ride was interrupted and some show elements did not appear to be working, or the last ones we evacuated and had to exit the ride before it was over. And I'm interested on this, Jim, because it's one of two things. Either Disney's just put this survey on automatic repeat and it continues to run, or they're still having issues and need to measure the overall impact to guests on this. And I'm not sure what it is.
Okay. Another thing to take into consideration here is, when did Galaxy's Edge open? That was 2018, 2019?
Right, yeah.
Okay, so realistically...
we're coming up on the first major refurb.
There we go. And the notion of... I have this uneasy feeling that it's sort of the California versus Florida thing all over again, where if you shut down a major attraction like Rise of the Resistance at Disneyland, the locals are like, okay, it'll be running in 6 months when I come back. Whereas if you take a Rise of the Resistance down in Florida and it's somebody's once-of-a-lifetime Disney World vacation, it will get unpleasant at guest relations at the studios.
Yeah.
So, again, just kind of, as we mentioned earlier in the show, Disney doesn't put a survey out there unless it's looking for an answer, and just sort of trying to take the temperature of the room of how aware are people of how many effects aren't working in Rise of the Resistance, and is this in fact a real issue? Yeah,
and I think when the time comes to make the decision about a Rise of the Resistance refurbishment period, especially if it's going to be many months. Normally I think, the CEO of the Walt Disney Company does not get involved in day-to-day operations of the parks, right? That's just not something that, Bob Iger's not trying to decide whether to run the parades at 2:00 or 3:00 in the Magic Kingdom. They leave that to the park VP. But we've said before, I'm positive that every park VP has in their annual performance goals something around Lightning Lane revenue. And shutting down Rise of the Resistance would impact Lightning Lane revenue at Hollywood Studios many tens of millions of dollars. It would basically blow that VP's annual performance appraisal for that year. Absolutely. And so this is a case where the Hollywood Studios VP would probably say no to that because it's not in their best interest to do it. And they would have to get some sort of dispensation from Bob Iger that says, I will not hold you to this Lightning Lane revenue goal for this year while Rise of the Resistance is down. Like, there would have to be a special exemption for that. And I think that's what this is doing.
Absolutely. And it just...
Because otherwise you're just being set up to fail, right? There's no way you can achieve that number.
No. And again, what's interesting here is just remembering what's going on at the studio. I mean, face it, we've just had Muppets go down. We still don't have a close date for Rock and Roller Coaster.
Right.
We do have our Disney animation redo potentially coming online in 2026, but this is already a problematic park to operate.
Right. 100%. Yeah. And I mean, in fact, I think, these rides, these single pass rides probably generate so much revenue that I don't even think closing them down is a Josh D'Amaro decision. Oh, no. Because they're probably in Josh's goals as well.
Yeah.
This is literally a Bob Iger question. Like, again, you will be okay with your annual performance appraisal if this happens. Like, we all agree on that.
Okay.
All right. On to listener questions. This is from Scott Egan on Patreon, who's following up on our comment a couple of weeks ago about dedicated bus lanes on Disney World property. And Scott writes that Lynx Limo, Lymmo, the free downtown Orlando shuttle, actually had dedicated lanes and light controls years before Disney adopted the system. I remember when Disney added it and thought it was about time, and they should expand it even further. I have this article, which I've linked it in the show notes, that's noting that Limo was the first bus system to use this way back in 1997. All right, so this thing's like almost 30 years old.
Wow. Oh, did not know that. Thank you, Scott.
Fantastic. All right. And last listener question is from Alex Stevens, who says, after reading last week's New York Times article about how the middle class can't afford Disney World, it got me wondering, why isn't Universal Orlando considered expensive? The ticket prices aren't that dissimilar. Both have paid fast pass solutions. Disney's hotels are much more expensive, but offsite's a valid option for both. Plane tickets cost the same regardless. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, so I think there are a couple of things going on here, Alex, and I emailed Alex with this too. But I mean, objectively, a multi-day Universal trip is expensive for most American families, right? It's still a lot of money, but there are some mitigating factors, and I think one of them is that Express Pass is still free at some parks for some resort guests, but not at all at Disney. Also, annual pass holders get an Express Pass benefit after 4 p.m., whereas the Disney doesn't do the same thing. Also, Disney's largely seen as the leader in the theme park industry, so whatever they do, it's automatically more visible just on that alone. So I think those are the 3 points.
Oh, by the way here, folks, if you did not, in fact, see this piece in the New York Times, which, by the way, Mr. Testa is quoted extensively and really well worth reading. I mean, I would imagine there are a lot of folks reaching in the Team Disney Burbank building for Mylanta. Again, what it was published.
I will tell you a story off the air about that.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Great piece. Definitely check it out.
It's a really good article. So I worked with Dan Carell on it, who's the main author. Dan did a fantastic job on it. Also, the editor was Suin Wong, who I love to work with. She's fantastic. Just like an amazing person. Great to deal with.
Cool.
So yeah, if you guys get a chance, go ahead and read it. All right, folks, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, Jim continues the construction challenges that Disney faced when building Cars Land in DCA. We'll be right back.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
With a major selection of the looks your kiddos love starting at just $4 in the Walmart app, a new school year means a stylish new them. Who knew? Find skater skirts and Crocs that say, I'm casual but cool. Sparkly sneakers that say, it's my classroom, you're just learning in it. And preppy polos that say, I'm the teacher's pet, even if they're mommy's menace at home. Find their favorite styles starting at just $4 in the app. The Walmart you thought you knew is now new.
This episode is brought to you by Nespresso and Samra Origins by the Weekend Coffee Collection.
Introducing Samra Origins. My collaboration with Nespresso is a connection to my roots, to my mother, Samra. Coffee that hits the right notes. It transports you. Crafted with unique notes and bold, soaring flavors. Experience a taste that moves you. Nespresso and Samra Origins.
Discover more at Nespresso.com.
And we're back. All right, Jim, we're picking up where we left off last week. It's 2005, right? Disneyland celebrating its 50th anniversary, and DCA is not looking good.
No, and important to stress here, it's only 4 years old at this point. It opened February of 2001. But compared to the park across Disneyland Plaza, again, wanting. So Barry Bergman, the chief creative on the original version of DCA, reaches out to longtime Imagineer Kevin Rafferty, asks for his help in turning this troubled theme park around. By the way, Len, entirely appropriate that Barry reaches out to Rafferty and hands him this gig because, remember, California Adventure was built in Disneyland's old parking lot, and prior to being hired by Walt Disney Imagineering in 78, by the way, as part of the big ramp up for, well, not just Epcot Center, but also Tokyo Disneyland. I mean, people today forget that Epcot Center opened October of 82. Tokyo Disneyland was just 6 months later, April of 83. I mean, two huge projects out the door in basically the same window of time. But anyway, Kevin, who was an Orange County boy, his family, they rented houses in Anaheim, Fulton, and Brea. So as Kevin likes to say, even today, his whole life he was never more than 10 miles away from Disneyland. But anyway, the summer between high school and college, Kevin gets a job in the dishwashing room at the Plaza Inn. And he describes it small, tight space where for 8 hours a day, he's hauling these huge hot racks of dishes, glasses, and silverware out of an industrial-grade dishwashing machine. So, your entire shift, you are breathing in steam, you're sweating. So what do you do when it's break time?
So two things here, Jim. Two things, because I've done this before. Two things. One, you realize very quickly that you're more suited for an office job. Number two, your pores look incredible at the end of the day.
Oh, absolutely. If you still have skin on your body at this point, that looks incredible. Sure. But anyway, what do you do? It's break time. You get out of that teeny tiny room full of hot dishes and steam, and you go to the Disneyland equivalent of wide open spaces, which is the parking lot.
I love that to get out of the heat and humidity of the dishwashing area, he goes to an Anaheim parking lot in summer.
Yeah, it's like, this is so refreshing to be out here.
So much better.
There we go. The blazing asphalt. But
exactly.
All right. Now, it's also important to stress here that Kevin's already a Disneyland fan. And when you're a cast member, you have the ability to roam backstage. So Rafferty takes full advantage of this. And you got to remember, mid-1970s, he's there when they're finishing construction of Space Mountain, the West Coast version, and also he's there when Big Thunder Mountain, with all of its rock work, is rising up, out of Frontierland. And by the way, that opened September 2nd, 1979, which means it just celebrated its 46th anniversary.
Wow, all right.
So anyway, Len, Kevin personally, during this period of time, saw how a single attraction of size, especially something that loomed over the rest of Disneyland, it could change the way, well, not just the way guests used the theme park. And Len, again, asking you to put on your touring plans hat here, you've seen this personally happen twice just with Animal Kingdom. For example, when Expedition Everest opened in April of 2006, and you saw the patterns that the way people use that park changed from that day forward, and then what is it? A little more than a decade later, we had Pandora: The World of Avatar open May of 2017, other side of the park, and again, everything you guys had to do to update touring plans at that point, because it's like, okay, now people are using this park differently.
It really does change the way that people tour the parks, because before both of those attractions, everyone would just head straight back to Kilimanjaro Safaris. right? And even the existence of Dinosaur, as the park's lone thrill ride, did not stem that tide. It was just incredible how many people go back. And, and we've talked about this before on the show, but, Disney, in order to balance guests around the park, will try and put its headliner attractions in the corners of the park to do more even guest distribution. So let's see what Kevin did with this. This is interesting.
Well, okay. So, but again, this is a guy who saw what happened with Space Mountain and Big Thunder at Disneyland in the mid-'70s. And again, it not only changed how people used the park, it changed how people talked about the parks, especially out in California where, again, Disney is competing against the Magic Mountains and Knott's Berries of the world. So anyway, Kevin had seen this firsthand. So when Barry asked him to work up something of size for California Adventure, he had some idea of what was needed. But we talked about this on last week's show, about how California Adventure, when it opened, didn't have lands, it had districts. And what's interesting about this is Kevin is often credited with creating DCA's first land, which is called Cars Land. And look, I'm a longtime Kevin Rafferty fan. In fact, anybody who proposes putting an attraction in a Disney theme park that prominently features Godzilla is a hero of mine. By the way, Len, Halloween is coming up next month, which is why we really need to find time to do a show here about two MGM attractions that were proposed and never built. One was the Creature's Choice Award, and the other one was the Hollywood Horror Hotel, aka Hotel Mel, which began Tower of Terror.
I love it, Jim. You'll notice in the show notes up where we have Halloween, I say that we need a Spooky Stories Halloween episode, and there's an email from JJ Cassidy that suggests that. So maybe we combine this all into one.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. All right. But anyway, as a fan of Kevin's work for 45 years, I have to call shenanigans on the whole. He was the first one to bring up, because there was, I have a memory. I recall a Bugs Land, which...
Oh, right. Yeah.
Okay, 6-acre addition to DCA, keyed off of Pixar's second film, A Bug's Life, which opened into theaters in November of '98, and got fast-tracked. I mean, you got to remember, the park opens February of 2001. By the fall of that same year, they've gone through their first lackluster summer. Park isn't even close to pulling, meeting its attendance projections, let alone what guests were supposed to spend on food and bev. So a decision is made in the late summer, early fall of that year, 2001, to add a West Coast version of Tower of Terror. But before that, there's going to be a kid-friendly section built around A Bug's Life. And mind you, site prep begins almost immediately, but this doesn't get officially announced till February 8th, 2002, the 1-year birthday of the park. And why the 5-month-long lag? Well, look, later this week, Len, we're commemorating the 24th anniversary of 9/11. And today we sometimes forget what those weeks and months immediately after the attacks on the World Trade Center and the Pentagon were like. How international and domestic tourism effectively ground to a halt, and people stopped getting on planes. And this is why I want to bring up, how many of you remember the speech that then President George W. Bush gave at O'Hare Airport? This was September 27th, 2001, 2.5 weeks after the attack. And he flat out said, when the terrorists struck, they wanted to create an atmosphere of fear, which is why I'm here today, to help restore public confidence in America's airline industry. It's just why I'm now saying to the traveling public, get on board. Go do your business around the country. Fly and enjoy America's destination spots. Get down to Disney World in Florida. Take your family and enjoy life the way we want it to be enjoyed. And even today, an extraordinary moment. I mean, the president of the United States effectively telling everybody in the country, get on a plane and go to Disney World. Otherwise, the terrorists win.
The terrorists win, exactly.
So,
isn't that amazing?
It is.
How central to the American way of life a park is. My God, amazing. I remember that speech. I remember it.
Yeah. All right. So anyway, back to A Bug's Land. That opens, again, it's open, officially announced February 8th, 2002. 8 months later, the 6-acre edition opens at DCA. Now, mind you, it's mostly lightly rethemed flat rides that Disney ordered out of catalogs, but it's open for October 7th, 2002. And again, I get why a lot of people don't remember A Bug's Land today because, well, just last week, September 4th, was the 7th anniversary of that side of the park shutting down in 2018 to make way for Avengers Campus, which opens in June of 2021.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the brilliantly named Heimlich's Choo Choo Train will always be in our hearts, Jim.
There we go. More to the point, if you ever make it up to Emeryville, outside of Pixar Studios, the at least one of the Heimlich Choo Choo trains is there, right there on campus.
Oh, fantastic.
He's not moving, but you can still climb aboard. So,
but he's there. All right.
All right. So anyway, just to be clear here, for those of you with selective amnesia, merely 10 years before Cars Land opened at DCA in June of 2012, A Bug's Land opened in the same theme park, October of 2002. Mind you, Cars Land, twice as big, 12 acres versus 6 acres. And I also told the company spent over $500 million to build a physical version of Radiator Springs, which, of course, took inspiration from Pixar's June 2006 release, Cars, which, by the way, Len, Michael Eisner came very close to not green lighting. You got to love that. Green lighting production of a movie about cars. Okay, but we'll get to that part of the story in a moment. But first, this.
As a sports fan, I have to confess. Sometimes the game gets kind of boring. That's when I unfold my Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7 and use multi-window viewing on its large screen. Boring game? I'm checking out my fantasy baseball league at the same time. Score still 1-0. I'm replying to emails in the other window, scoring points with the boss. Semifinals finally getting exciting. I'm buying tickets to the finals and booking my flights. Can your phone do that?
The new Galaxy Z Fold 7. Get yours at Samsung.com.
Introducing the perfect companion to your morning listening routine. AG1's clinically backed formula is now flavor-packed with 3 new delicious flavors: tropical, berry, and citrus. Start the day on a high note with probiotics that taste like the tropics. Mix it up with micronutrients that taste like berry or citrus. And take it all the way back with the classic AG1 Original with notes of pineapple and vanilla. Do your health a flavor, or 4, with AG1 Next Gen, the daily health drink. Learn more at drinkag1.com.
This episode is brought to you by Greenlight. Get this. Adults with financial literacy skills have 82% more wealth than those who don't. From swimming lessons to piano classes, us parents invest in so many things to enrich our kids' lives. But are we investing in their future financial success? With Greenlight, you can teach your kids financial literacy skills like earning, saving, and investing. And this investment costs less than that after-school treat. Start prioritizing their financial education and future today with a risk-free trial at greenlight.com/Spotify. Greenlight.com/Spotify.
And we're back. Okay, so Len, we were talking about Cars Land and how that changed a lot of people's perception of California Adventure Park. And again, mind you, by the time this 12-acre land opens in June of 2012, the Cars film franchise already has a very passionate fan base that's chomping at the bit to visit a physical version of Radiator Springs.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Swing by the Cozy Cone and get themselves a big bowl full of chili con carne.
And then there's Flo's V8 Cafe, which, by the way, is a brilliant piece of architecture.
Oh, no,
I don't remember who designed that, but it's really pretty.
No, they did a wonderful, wonderful piece of work. But again, it's weird to think now how the Cars movie, and again, released to theaters June 2006, how close it came to not happening. And to explain that, got to jump back to July of 91. This is when the Walt Disney Company signs a 3-picture deal with Pixar. But to be honest, Len, this is a 1-picture deal because nobody knows if it's actually going to be possible to deliver a commercially viable full-length animated feature done in CG. But Disney's lawyers, being Disney lawyers, and in the very slim chance that this is actually a success, let's put language in here that would allow us to get 2 more movies out of Pixar.
Sure.
But anyway, as anyone who's been paying attention for the past 30 years knows, when the original Toy Story comes out, November of 95. Not just an enormous success, it's a pop culture phenomenon. Which is what, and this is the fascinating part of the story, this is what prompts Steve Jobs, the owner of Pixar Animation Studios, to then, lure Disney back to the negotiating table to get far better terms. Now, mind you, it takes 18 months to hammer out this deal, but in February of 97, what had previously been Disney's feature film agreement with Pixar Animation Studio, only supposed to run through the end of 2000, and yet again, only to cover production of possibly 3 films. This is now mutated into what's known as the co-production deal.
Oh, so it went from Disney just distributing the films, and 3 of them, now to co-production. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. And
so
now it's huge. It's a 10-year deal for 5 films, which, by the way, this version of the deal begins with A Bug's Life, which, again, coming out in theaters November of 98. And Jobs got just some flat-out amazing concessions from Disney. For example, starting with Pixar's next theatrical release, Disney and Pixar would split production costs and the profits that each computer animated film made, and this was equally. And mind you, Disney got a teeny tiny distribution fee for each film. On the other hand, this deal included all monies that were made from theatrical release, all monies that were made from home video sales, all money made from merch, Len.
Oh, wow. Okay, so this is actually a pretty decent deal for Disney.
It is, but the absolute genius part of this is the next term and condition, that it came time to market these new Pixar films. The Pixar name had to be as big and just as prominently displayed on all posters, TV commercials.
Name recognition. They're getting advertising out of it. Okay, got it.
That's it, exactly. And remember, this is Steve Jobs of Apple fame, who understood that what often compels people to buy a product is its mystique, its mythology, and the fact that, well, Pixar, look at the ads. I mean, Pixar's as big as Disney. They must be doing something special there.
I love that Jobs is thinking about this going, okay, we had our original contract. We just renegotiated with it. But in 10 years' time, if this thing works out and the Pixar name is huge, we're basically signing contract number 2 so that we're going to be in a better position for contract number 3. 10 years from now.
You've nailed it.
That's smart thinking.
No, absolutely. Okay. It's three-dimensional chess. Now, mind you, Disney walked away from this discussion with a couple of solid wins. Chief among these was, first, a sequel to Toy Story was fast-tracked. That would arrive in theaters November of 99. More to the point, Disney got language included in this co-production deal that said that sequels didn't count when it came to the 5 pictures that were in. Oh,
wow. So there had to be 5 new properties. So Disney's getting 5 potential IP franchises here.
There we go. All right.
Wow.
So speaking of which, picture number 1 of this deal, A Bug's Life. Again, out in theaters November of 1998. Toy Story 2, not part of the deal, comes out the next year, 99. Monsters, Inc. Comes out in November of 2001. That's picture number 2. And all 3 of these films, Bug's Life, Toy Story 2, Monsters, Inc. do really well at the box office, sell well as home video, sell tons of merch. And more to the point, Finding Nemo, which would arrive in theaters in May of 2003, and The Incredibles, which would show up at your local multiplex November of 2004, are both now in development.
All right, so that's 4 films then.
That's right. So now back to the point you made earlier about you negotiate contract number 2 with the eye to contract number 3.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so now we've reached film number 5 in the co-production deal. And it's also time for Disney and Pixar to begin discussions about whether or not they're going to extend this deal.
Yeah, and you want to do this now while both sides have a little bit of leverage rather than at the end of it when...
There we go. Okay. There we go. Okay, so Steve Jobs starts off the negotiations by saying, hey, Pixar's got a great idea for Toy Story 3. And how about, as a goodwill gesture on Disney's part, to get these contract negotiations going on a positive note, how about you guys agree to count Toy Story 3 as the 5th film for the co-production deal.
Yeah, and I mean, to be fair, Disney's got 4 brand new IP franchises to build on here, right? I could, you can kind of see the rationale for asking the question.
No, it makes sense. It makes sense. And by the way, just to be clear here, this means we would have actually gotten Toy Story 3 back in the summer of 2006, rather than June of 2010, which is when that Andrew Stanton film finally did show up in theaters 4 years later. Michael Eisner counters to Steve Jobs by saying, read your contract. Sequels don't count toward the completion of our co-production deal. I mean, sure, Disney would be happy to release Toy Story 3, but we're going to need a 5th original film from you guys. So you have honored, the exact language of this contract. So what else you got for us?
I'm really surprised that there wasn't some sort of middle ground to be reached here other than yes or no. Eisner could have said, okay, if Toy Story 3 hits these performance metrics, we'll count it as the fit, right? There's lots of ways you could have said, you could have protected Disney's interests while making this nice gesture towards Pixar.
Look, you're not wrong, but Eisner taking this stance totally pisses off Steve Jobs.
Sure.
And again, this is more about make a gracious gesture to the start of negotiations. But here's the thing. Eisner knew that Pixar, in order to get the best possible terms out of Disney for contract number 3, Jobs was first going to make a very public show of reaching out to the Paramounts, the Universals, the Warner Brothers of the world, and seeing what they would put on the table to be the company where the next set of Pixar movies went out under that studio's banner, which is why Jobs knew that going into those negotiations with outside companies, he needed a rock-solid, guaranteed, can't-miss idea for a new motion picture.
That's really interesting strategy. Yeah.
Okay. And the idea that he had was Cars.
Oh.
Now, Cars begins development at Pixar in 1998, but back then, movie wasn't built around Lightning McQueen. It was built around Guido, the little forklift character from the tire shop.
Sure, the spiritual center of the film franchise. Sure, okay, I'm with you.
But Jobs knew that giving little boys love of cars, that when this movie, once it arrived in theaters, it was going to be a merchandising bonanza. Again, it was guaranteed to make for Pixar and whatever studio was going to release that film a buttload of money. But again, here's the thing. Eisner started at ABC in 1966 and quickly moved up to the ranks. Actually was head of children's television at that network. So he had a front row seat starting in 68 when Mattel launched the Hot Wheels line and also made a buttload of money. So Eisner knew that any CG animated film built around cars would rake in a ton of cash for Disney and Pixar. So he tells Jobs, so tell you what, we'll take them both. We'll take Toy Story 3 and Cars.
Oh, Toy Story 3 is the sequel that didn't count, and Cars is the 5th film in the contract. Wow.
Which again, hardball negotiation, and Steve Jobs answered in kind. January of 2004, Jobs makes a very public show saying Pixar Animation Studios is breaking off all contract extension talks with the Walt Disney Company. Just so you know, Len, and if you put it in context, method to Jobs' madness, 3 months previous, Roy E. Disney had publicly resigned from Disney's board of directors and cited Eisner's management style as a key reason why he was leaving the company. And Jobs hoped by publicly breaking off Pixar's contract talks with Disney when he did, that would have a cumulative effect on Eisner.
And?
Actually did.
And did.
Yeah. March of that same year, the shareholders meeting was held in Philadelphia. Eisner got a 43% no confidence vote.
Which is huge.
That was. And first, Disney's board of directors strips Eisner of his chairmanship. Just to be clear, he remained as the company's CEO. And Michael was enough of a realist to sort of, read the tea leaves and realize, okay.
Now's the time. Yeah.
Yeah, and no, that's it exactly. In fact, Eisner was under contract to run Disney through September of 2006. By March of 2005, he effectively, no mas, announcing now that I will be stepping down a year early on my contract. I'm out the door. It's September of 2005. And as soon as they get Eisner's letter of resignation, the board turns to Bob Iger and says, tag, you're it. And Iger, to show you what a political animal he was, the very first phone call he made once he learned he was Disney's new CEO was to Steve Jobs.
Okay.
This makes Jobs very, very happy because, again, because Disney had insisted that Cars be the very last film of their 5-picture deal. This meant that here's poor Steve Jobs going around to the Paramounts, the Warner Brothers, and the Universals of the world and trying to convince them, well, you want to release, you want to be in bed with us, and here's our first film that we want you to release under your banner. It's about this rat.
That cooks.
Yeah.
like Steve, you might be Steve. Are you huffing the iPhone glue? Is that what's happening here?
I mean, look, in hindsight, everybody today recognizes Ratatouille, that Brad Bird film, June of 2007. It's one of Pixar's masterpieces. It's
my favorite. It's my favorite Pixar film.
Yeah, and it does well at the box office. Lots of professional recognition. It was won the Oscar that year for Best Animated Feature. But again, if you're a guy sitting across the table about to make $1 billion deal with Pixar, and it's like the first movie is about a rat.
A rat? Yeah. Oh, and remember we're in the post Gulf War II period here where we rename French fries Freedom Fries. So a film about French culture, or that loves Paris, and a rat that cooks. Yeah, there's a lot going on there. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Now, Bob Iger becomes Disney's new CEO, September of 2005. Immediately reopens negotiation with Steve Jobs, but in this case, we're not going to extend the deal. We're going to buy Pixar outright. They do that January 2006 for $7.4 billion.
A bargain.
Well, but here's the thing. He makes this deal 3 months after he's become CEO. Imagine being the new guy and having to go to the board and say, I need $7.4 billion. And they went for it. But again, part of that deal, Lasseter becomes new creative consultant for WDI, which is why in April of 2006, he gets to see everything, including what Kevin Rafferty is working up for Cruise Street, which again is that new land that Barry Braverman had asked him to develop a DCA, something that would give that theme park a big dose of Disneyland DNA. And but here's the thing, Len. John Lasseter, just like Kevin Rafferty, is an Orange County kid. All right. Grew up in Whittier, California, just 15 miles away from Anaheim. And just like Kevin, between high school and college, he gets a job at Disneyland, only instead of washing dishes, John's a skipper on the Jungle Cruise. So right from the get-go, these guys have commonality. And when Lasseter takes a look at everything that Rafferty designed for Cruise Street, he's like, you need to come with me up to Emeryville. I have a movie to show.
I got a movie for you to see. Exactly.
There we go. Yeah. All right. And next week, in the third and final installment, we're going to talk about how Cruise Street mutated into Cars Land. More to the point, how tons of steel and concrete, how it transformed the old Timon parking lot into Radiator Springs, and more to the point, hid the Orange County Convention Center.
Oh, I'm really looking forward to this installment in the series because it's going to tell us what we might expect in Frontierland in the Magic Kingdom. So super excited there.
There we go.
Fantastic. All right, looking forward to it.
Oh, speaking of looking forward to things, we just want to work in a brief plug here for Jim Schul's Disney Journey. And in fact, it's interesting you bring up the Cars Road Rally and the Villains Land, because on the show that'll be posting this Friday, folks, Jim asked, does making a really expensive ride automatically make it better? Just on the next Disney Journey, Jim's going to eyeball that part of the equation. Does spending more money mean that you actually have a better ride?
Oh, that's a fantastic question. All right, I've put a link to Jim Schul's Disney Journey YouTube channel. in the show notes. All right, folks, that's going to do it for the show today. You can help support our show by subscribing over at patreon.com/JimHillMedia, where we're posting exclusive shows every week. Our latest show was on the history of Test Track 1, 2, and 3, and there's a link in the show notes. On next week's show, Jim continues the story of how Disney prepared DCA for Cars Land, and we have author Alexis Francison to talk about her new book. You can find more of Jim at jimhillmedia.com and more of me, Len, at touringplans.com. We're produced spectacularly by Eric Hersey and David Gray, performing the roles of Shrek and Donkey in Shrek, El Musical, the first Spanish-language performance of Shrek on the island, this coming September 26th and 27th at the Luis A. Ferre Performing Arts Center in beautiful downtown San Juan, Puerto Rico. While Eric and David are doing that, please go into iTunes and rate our show and tell us what you'd like to hear next. For Jim, this is Len. We'll see you on the next show.